Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to the Business Spotlight podcast. We're here in Nashville today, and we're here talking to a young lady who's going to share with us her most recent interesting venture into merchandising, which we, in our little talk before, discussed that it was really kind of a piece of marketing. So it's a cool little niche that she started here within the last couple of years, and she'll share with us her journey through entrepreneurialism, how she got to where she's at. And well, we should have a great conversation for you. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really happy to welcome Meghan Sumpser.
Yeah.
Meghan, thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic you're here. The I was sharing with you before we got on the call that this space is not exactly something that I've got a lot of specific hands-on experience, but I know about it, and I just find it intriguing what it is you're doing. But before we get into that topic, share with us a little bit about your professional history, maybe where you're from, how long you've been in Nashville or the Nashville area, and just a general outline and description, if you can kick us off that way.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, definitely. So I am born and raised in Southern Virginia. I went to school outside of DC and met my now husband there. And I spent some time living in LA, and then have been in Nashville for about 6 years. So it's been awesome. I have kind of a diverse career history. I think like a lot of other 20-something-year-olds, I floundered a bit with knowing what my purpose was and what I was supposed to do and how I was supposed to do it. So I have always been passionate about health and wellness. My degree is in health and fitness, actually. And I, after school, after I finished college, I started out teaching yoga. I was a certified hot yoga teacher for a really long time and still practice now, which is great to be on the other end of it. But yeah, I kind of dove into that world. I did a lot of, going teaching yoga retreats and leading different trips. So kind of got my feet wet in the event planning side of things. When I eventually moved to California, I started working with Lululemon. And it was the first company that I worked with where I was 1,000,000% drinking the Kool-Aid and like so happy to be there. They do an incredible job with their how they treat their employees and their company culture and all that sort of stuff. So learned a lot of valuable lessons there. And then when I came to Nashville, I kind of transitioned more into sales and events. I was working with a tech company here in Nashville as the event manager. I also worked with a couple of different uh, restaurant groups in Nashville. And so kind of got my start there. And then during COVID, when there were no events to be had, I got a message from one of my friends, and she was saying that they were looking for brand ambassadors for a company called Rise Brewing Company. And shout out Rise. It's a company that my company Shelf Love is proud to still represent today. But yeah, so that kind of got me started in the CPG space, which I was kind of talking to you about earlier, consumer packaged goods. And that is kind of how I got my start and figured out eventually that I wanted to start Shelf Love. So it was a good thing to start. Um, Go ahead.
I was going to say, so kind of cruising along in, well, I guess kind of a corporate role,
Mhm.
more or less working for someone else, most
Yeah,
definitely, right?
yeah.
And then seeing the opportunity to jump ship and do it on your own. Of course, you're awful young, you don't. I'm assuming that you don't have a family to support yet necessarily.
Not yet. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was low risk, I guess, was definitely you know, helpful. When I started out as a brand ambassador, I kind of transitioned into 1099 work. And so I was doing that for a little bit. And that kind of got me used to kind of keeping track of my finances in a different way, I guess you could say. And so when so I started working as a brand ambassador with Rise, and then from then got the opportunity to be a brand ambassador with a couple of other brands, all within the natural and organic space. And yeah, so I was loving the freedom that a 1099 employee has, where I could kind of choose my hours. I didn't have to clock into an office. Like, yeah, that having that little piece of freedom was definitely put me on the path to being excited about starting my own company for sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you got it's like you got exposed to the freedom of kind of your own doing your own thing. And it's like, okay, this is where I want to go. Right.
Yeah, totally. And when I started out in the space as a brand ambassador, I did, it was the first time I'd ever heard of the industry. I didn't know that I was going to make this into a career. I kind of thought it was just something that I was going to do, passing by, but I ended up really loving it. I got to support brands that I myself loved and consumed regularly. And yeah, and I got to see the sales increase in Nashville where I was representing the product. I just thought it was really fun. I got to work with some of the founders pretty closely and got some insight into, what they're looking for in their business. And with, startup businesses, there's a lot of room for flexibility and freedom and trying new things. And I was lucky enough to have a boss who I consider now a mentor, and she was able to like kind of give me a lot of opportunities to learn about different parts of the industry. And yeah, and then it was kind of like a no-brainer. I was like, wow, I could actually make a whole business out of this and make this my whole life and share this work that I love with other people. So it's been fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
Shelf Love, as you were describing to me earlier, natural food merchandising, but a little bit different. Well, you did a little, I guess, the merchandising is kind of puts people in the space there, but there's really a little bit different spin on it.
Mhm.
How did that, share with us how that evolved and well, let me back up. How was Shelf Love born?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, kind of like I just said, I was working for a couple of different brands as a brand ambassador. So I was kind of working part-time with several different companies, but all within the same space. And one of the brands that I was working with, I traveled to do some activations with them in Northern Virginia, actually, which was exciting to go back to my old stomping grounds. But while I was there, I was, talking to him about kind of like the trajectory of that business and what growth opportunities looked like and all of that sort of stuff. And he kind of said, well, if you're already doing this, with a couple of brands, you could do it with even more brands, and you could help support more natural food companies, the brands that you're already like excited about. So that was kind of how it started. He kind of planted the seed and was like, why don't you just do this? Like, why doesn't this be your growth trajectory? And as soon as he said it, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. In Nashville, I was telling you before we started that in Nashville, there aren't really, or I guess in general, there are other companies that do this type of work.
Mhm.
And there aren't very many of them in Nashville. I think I'm really the only one that focuses on the natural and organic foods. So I had a little niche to kind of start in and a little bubble that was pretty untouched. And so, yeah, that's kind of like how I looked at it. And then I made a business plan. I just kind of did it. I was like, this is what we're doing. We're going for it. And took a big leap. And I'm glad that I did.
That's awesome. How long ago was that?
A year ago in July.
Oh my goodness. So
I
yeah,
know.
yeah, you just celebrated a birthday then.
I did. Yes, it was very exciting. I was actually the sole employee of Shelf Love aside from my friends and family that I solicited help from. And for the first 10 months, I was the sole employee, and now we have about 15 brand ambassadors all across the country. So the growth has been so exciting, and really has like helped motivate me to continue doing this and seeing the difference that you can make. It's awesome.
That is fantastic. So how many different brands are you working with now within that kind of within that niche?
Yeah, so we have three incredible brands that we are representing right now. Shelf Love, I consider a boutique style company. So we definitely think that less is more. I'd rather really pour into the brands that we're representing now rather than have like 50 that I can't keep track of. So we are strategically small in that sense. But we have Plant People, which is an incredible functional mushroom gummy that we're representing. We're also doing Oat House, which is a granola butter, kind of like a alternative to sun butter, super good. And then we're also doing Rise, as I mentioned before, the first brand I ever started with, and we have demos with them. So it's been really awesome.
That is fantastic. So, Rise is here in Nashville. Is that right?
Well, actually, they started in New York City,
Okay.
and they have their brewery in Connecticut. And
Okay.
so
I was going to
I
say
would, yeah,
I had not, never, I didn't think I'd ever heard of them. Maybe I was just for some reason I thought it was in Nashville, but
yeah,
um,
not that one, but yeah, they're started by a couple of friends and have grown to a really successful business. So they've been really fun to support.
okay. And how are they different from other breweries? Do they fit a space that kind of fits into this natural food?
Yeah, so I said brewery, but that was a little bit confusing. Rise is natural, organic, cold brew coffee. So they have a
Oh,
coffee
gotcha,
brewery, and
gotcha.
that
See,
is
well,
why.
you know where my mind goes.
Yeah,
You think
yeah,
brewery, that's
yeah.
beer.
Well, listen, on the tables it says Brewing Co. and it always draws in everybody, so it's perfect.
Yeah,
I'll take
yeah.
it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, if I'm a manufacturer or a producer of some natural food item, I don't know, maybe similar to the butter that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
uh, how how would you come across? How would we meet each other? How would I know that I need the service that you're offering?
Yeah, good question. This industry is it's I feel like it's big, but it's so small actually. And so I feel like a lot of there's some networking events, some sales and distributor shows that happen throughout the year. And that is kind of like where I get my most connections is talking to people and being on the show floors. The events are so fun because it's like a bunch of organic, natural business owners, like all in one space, and they're showcasing their exciting brand that they have. And it's really fun. So that is definitely a good way to meet people. My friend that I mentioned earlier, her name is Liz. She actually introduced me to Rise Brewing Company back in the day when I started as a brand ambassador. Fast forward to today, we actually have a podcast also. It's called Chat CPG. And yeah, and we get to interview a lot of people in the space. So that has also been really great networking, getting to just like talk to different people. And there are some networking groups in Nashville that I've also gotten to meet some people at. So I feel like it's, just getting to be in the right space at the right time. I mean, LinkedIn is always good too, and you can
Hmm.
never be mad at it. But yeah, I think just being at networking events is like the best way to do it.
Yeah, right. And so, um, if I heard about you, how do you improve my business, improve my sales? What is it you guys do specifically to help?
Yeah, I
Uh,
realize I didn't answer that
no,
part of
no,
the
no, no,
question.
no, no, no. Just a
Um,
follow up. No.
um, so Shelf Love helps represent natural and organic brands with event support and with demos in stores. So basically, if you ever see anybody in Whole Foods passing out samples of products and educating you on what they're passing out, that could very well be a Shelf Love employee if they have a Shelf Love shirt on, of course. But yeah, so that's what we do is we help get the brands in front of the customers, and we educate customers. We talk to them about what it is, why it's different. Shelf Love and the brand ambassadors, our whole team takes a lot of time to really research the brands. I put together a full training on each brand that we represent, and then present it to everybody so that everybody is super well versed on the tasting notes and why it's different and why it's the best. And so we take time to realize what the brands we offer, what the brands we represent, why they're different, and relate that to the customers. It's awesome to have a new brand on a shelf in a grocery store. But Craig, how often do you just like go to your staple stuff that you buy? It's hard
Oh,
to
big
get
time.
shoppers to purchase other items. So yeah, we go out there and we educate and we talk about it, and then event support too. So we'll be doing some holiday markets here in Nashville, which will be fun. And yeah, just kind of getting out there and showcasing.
Yeah, that's great. Um, and so the brands that you're working with now, how many people are it, and those folks that are demoing in stores are Shelf Love employees who are trained specifically to promote the product or educate the potential customer on the product, right? How
Yeah.
many per brand do you have out throughout I guess it depends on where they are that brand is distributed
Yeah,
throughout the
yeah.
country, right?
Yeah, sometimes brands have specific locations that they want to do demos in, or we'll do just a certain number, or a lot of times, like for Rise Brewing Company, for example, they are releasing a new flavor of their lattes in Whole Foods. It's actually out now. You want to try it. It's called salted caramel. It's very good.
Hmm.
And so we'll do demos to support the launch of a new product. So people know that brand in Whole Foods, but we get to show them like, oh, here's a new product and a brand that you should be trying. So we have 15 brand ambassadors, about 15 brand ambassadors across the US in strategic cities. And so it kind of just depends. Sometimes brands want all of the cities, sometimes they want just some of them.
I see.
Yeah, so it works in different ways. Some of the brands want, prolonged demoing, so that we'll kind of demo them every single week and really showcase them and saturate the market. So different techniques
I see.
for different brands. Yeah.
Do you find other competition right here in this niche with you, or are
You
you
know,
guys?
there are some other brand ambassadors for different companies in this space that are out there, but what I really think is that there are enough brands for everybody. I would much rather be like in the collaboration with other brand ambassadors or other field marketing managers versus like being upset. It's actually
Mhm.
funny. There's a lot of the grocery managers I was working with pretty closely while I was doing the merchandising part of it. When I first started my company, it looked a little different. And some of the managers would say like, "Oh, are you jealous of Allie? She's doing so good." I'm like, "No, she is doing so good. I'm so happy for her." I don't know. It's just a different mindset I think is important.
Yeah, yeah, that's
But of
cool.
course, I have a business that needs to succeed. So there are there are not nobody else in the area that's doing specifically what I'm doing. So there's a big space for us to succeed, which is awesome. And I'm also finding a lot of success in the other cities that we're in. We have people from LA all the way to, North Carolina. So um, it's been fun getting to know brands on a personal level and having them trust me and trust my team to like be in other areas. So that has been a fun transition as well.
Hmm. So, considering you're just over a year old, what's your vision for the company? What is it? Where is it you want to take it?
Yeah.
What's your big goal? Your big vision?
That's a good question. When I first started my company just under a year ago, or just over a year ago, I thought it was going to look really different than it looks now, but I'm excited in the way that it's kind of moving. I think big goal is that I am able to bring on the right employees to help scale the business in a way that makes sense. So keeping a boutique style mentality while also growing to be able to help support more brands is really important. I don't want to say I want to support 20 brands. I want to support 20 brands that like in a really, really positive, good way.
Right, right. And so not growing too fast, but realizing, you know, you've got to find the right people to put in place to represent your company and then ultimately represent
Yeah.
the brand. right?
Yeah, totally. I mentioned earlier how I loved working for Lululemon and totally drank the Kool-Aid there. And it was because they treated their employees so well. And
Mhm.
like that is all that I can really ask is to find employees that want to learn and grow. And that I think would be successful for me is if I can find employees and people that want to grow and believe in this and can help me scale it in a way that doesn't take away from the integrity of what we're offering.
Right. And so of the brand managers that you've brought on, what if you don't mind me asking,
Yeah.
what's a what are the key things you look for in someone to fill that kind of role? What are the key characteristics, behaviors, attitudes of the person, skills, of course, of that
Yeah.
type of person?
It's a funny role to hire for because it is an intro level position. However, it does require a specific type of person. We want people that are going to be interested in talking to their friends and family about natural and organic brands, who already have an interest in it. I don't like need to hire anybody that has an all organic diet. That's not the point. The point is hiring people that are just interested and genuinely curious about learning more. I look for people that are obviously like very dependable, nice. I think in my job description it says you're a nice person. Like I just want to like work with individuals who genuinely care about this space. My best top ones are the ones that care the most. They're the ones that put in time to do extra training when necessary, or they're the ones that are looking for different events that we can help do that are kind of taking it upon themselves to have like the entrepreneurial mindset.
Right. Okay. And if has it been a challenge finding people? I think gosh, since the somewhat end of the pandemic, it's been hard to, I mean, I know the fast food places have had a hard time. You don't hear about that too much in the news anymore. How was your experience here over the last year in finding the right people to fit into your organization?
Yeah, it's been a learning process for sure. But I have found really incredible people. Some of the people that I've found have been, word of mouth. I think that you can't underestimate the value in just like a referral from somebody. But you're right, it is difficult to find the right people, especially if somebody's looking for only part-time work or that's all that I have to offer is how can I find the right person? It's been difficult. I lean on LinkedIn a lot,
Mhm.
and word of mouth referrals, and um, yeah, it's been some ups and downs, but we've learned from it, and I've kind of think finding the right interview questions and asking them in the right way, and really setting expectations in the beginning has been super helpful.
Right, right. And so,
Yeah.
where are, I would imagine they're distributed in some major cities or across the country. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We have LA, Seattle, Northern California. I gotta look at my list. Miami, Boston, Nashville, of course, Northern California, Denver, Chicago. Yeah, so kind of we've got New York City and New Jersey. But yeah, the bigger cities is great. There's also value in Nashville is in this industry kind of considered a B market. So
Mhm.
it's not the main one that you would go towards, but there's a lot of value in our markets too. In the secondary markets, with being able to create better relationships with people or have more meaningful interactions. So we find value in both, the hustle bustle and also the smaller cities too.
Sure, sure. I just imagine, because I used to be responsible for a field force as well, and of course we had management. I don't know how big your team is, or it's big enough to have field management, but
Yeah.
it's not something to take for granted when you got a distributed workforce.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're learning that, I guess. But I'm sure it comes with its challenges, and finding the right people who are committed to it, so you don't have to like stay on top of them. I mean, you don't want to have that even if you're working in the same room with them.
I know, yeah. It's been funny. Everybody works in different ways and I think that learning different communication styles and how to best relate to different people is key for sure. It's really important.
Yeah, no question. So what do you think your biggest challenge is moving forward with your business? It sounds like you're doing quite well. It sounds like you've got some brands that believe in you and that you're fully committed to.
Yeah.
And I fully expect that to continue to grow, but to bring on more brands and then to hire the right people, what is the biggest challenge that you face growing or getting to the point where you want to be?
Yeah, I think employee retention is been the hardest. So, I have some really incredible brand ambassadors, and people representing this business. And sometimes it is a transitionary role, right? If you're doing a part-time job, that is amazing for some people and not amazing for other people, and just something to hold them by for other people. So, yeah, that has been a little bit tricky. I think that moving forward, being able to offer more full-time hours to individuals, I think that that will be a way that I can help with that. But I think that it's just like we were saying, it's just finding the right people that has been the hardest but most rewarding part, because they are definitely out there. You just gotta be able to connect with them at the right time. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me see here.
How long have you been in Nashville, Craig?
You know what? I'll tell you this. We used to live in Franklin back in the
Oh,
90s, and we moved away in 2004, moved to
okay.
Pittsburgh, and I worked
Okay.
for a big company in the telecom space. We owned and managed, oh man, it was over like 80,000. I think they're still around 80,000. No, 40,000. They have 40,000 cell phone towers and then about 80,000 miles of underground and overhead fiber.
Wow.
And when I started with them, they had just recently uh, gone public, and they grew out of a mom, I won't say mom and pop, but a construction company. Long story, he got into the tower business and then had, carriers knocking on his door. Hey, can I locate on your tower? And that just changed his whole life. He said, okay, now I need to go in, because it was in the 90s when he was doing this. And
Right.
then things just took off, in that industry and for him and for the rest of for the whole company. But anyway, yeah, so we had
Well,
we had people both operations and construction distributed throughout the whole country. And
yeah.
it was, it got to be a big challenge. But you have to, managing, and then I had a small team too at one time that was distributed across the country. And that's even a challenge because, that they are directly reporting to you,
Yeah.
right? But then when you get big enough out in the field, then you've got to hire managers and then it's a little bit easier, once
Right.
you get the management in the field, but then they still have the responsibility of managing a distributed group within their region. It makes it easier. But, the lack of face to face, of course, Zoom helps, but
Yeah.
it's not a replacement
Yeah.
face to face interaction.
Totally.
It's just not, I don't find it to be as effective as being in the same room with someone. But
It's totally different, huh? Have you found anything or did you find anything that helped with that?
well, I mean, you have to be very intentional
Yeah.
about spending time, and there's a cost associated with spending time in the field with people.
Yeah.
But you just have to be intentional about doing it and know that it's needed.
Yeah.
It was like a cost of doing business.
True.
Um,
Yeah.
but you balance it back and forth between doing something on Zoom and then doing something in person. Even
Yeah.
though it's like texting is probably the lowest level of communication, and email is probably better.
Yeah.
A phone call is a step up from that. And then
Yeah.
a Zoom call is probably a step up from that. And by
Totally.
far the best is having somebody sitting in the same room with you.
For sure. Goes
And
back to that relationship building, right? It's just like pouring into the people that you want to care about your business, you know?
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, and you have to find out, who they are at their core. And then, then that makes it a little bit easier, but
for sure.
you can't ignore them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
You have to
totally.
be engaged with them,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and totally on the same page. So,
Yeah, I've been trying to set up like more meetings, like you said, Zoom meetings with the brand ambassadors, just to, keep showing face and remind them that we're all still working together and on a team together. It's an interesting thing for sure.
right, right. Um, let's see. So, if you could do this over again, and of course you're only a year in, right? And maybe
Hmm.
but you are a year in. Looking back on it, I love the fact that you just said, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and we're doing it.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would do differently now that you're looking back a year into this?
Um, I would probably spend a little bit more time on my interview tactics at the very beginning. I needed to kind of clean that up a little bit. I was a little bit out of practice on that part. I mean, I made so many mistakes, but I really learned so much from all of them. Like without making the mistake, maybe I wouldn't have learned the lesson that I learned. And so I kind of no, there hasn't been a mistake yet, knock on wood, that has been catastrophic or has, been horrible. But yeah, I think that it's led to the growing. I would say been, I was a little bit apprehensive about kind of changing my business model, not my business model, but my service offerings a little bit. And it ended up being so worthwhile. And I'm super glad that I did that. So maybe a good one would be letting go a little bit more, a little bit faster, and being okay with change a little bit quicker than I was. But yeah, I think we learned from all the mistakes that we make.
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah.
You're either succeeding. This is what we say. There's no succeeding and failing. It's like you're either succeeding or you're learning.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. I love it.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's like, I don't care who you talk to, whether they, went out on their own and, invented some new product and service, or, anybody who's just followed a franchise model.
Yeah.
You still are going to make mistakes, and you still have to look at them as learning experiences, and, get over it and move
Yeah.
forward,
Yeah.
and you just gotta, and, I've always heard it said too, you fail forward.
Yeah.
Fail fast and fail forward, and learn
Exactly.
from it and pick up and go. So you've got the right mindset for that. And it just, you give off this vibe like you're having fun doing this.
It has been so fun. I think that's what made the jump easier because I was already so excited about what I was doing and thought it was like a cool job anyways. So then being able to help other people do it, and like get to help products that are, good for your body and good for the planet. I mean, that is I've always said like I really wanted to find some job where I felt like I was making a difference and even like one person's life. I mean, it's a little stereotypical, but I really did think I really like wanted that. I really always searched for that, and I feel like I'm doing that now with Shelf Love. So it's been fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. You kind of, I don't know if it's fair for me to say this, but you kind of pick and choose who you want to work for,
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously I need my business to be successful, but yeah, I'm not going to just work with any brand. It's, I want to make sure that it's brands that stands behind what, Shelf Love believes in and what I believe in, and really that just comes down to making good quality products that, like I said, are good for your body and good for the planet. So
Mhm.
it's been easy to support the brands that we've taken on for sure.
Right. And that's, I think you were sharing with me earlier, that's kind of been, the health space, right, is kind of where you came from.
Yeah.
You're just kind of really into that, independent of doing this work, right? So
Yeah.
it's a good match for you to fit in this space.
Yeah, totally. And it's coming from Virginia, which and then Northern Virginia, which was more kind of health focused ish, going to LA, which was like uber health focused, coming to then Nashville, which is kind of on the up and up with the health products and all of that sort of stuff. It was fun. I felt like I was, yeah, really like making a difference in people's lives and helping them. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. So tell me then about, I'm going to ask you a question about your own personal development.
Okay.
What it is do you do? What it is you like to do? Or how do you learn? How do you improve yourself? How do you grow? Do you like do you take classes? Do you learn online webinars? Read books?
Yeah.
Is there a favorite person that you kind of emulate, or how do you what it is that you do to improve yourself?
Yeah, I really like to try to ask for meetings with people that I think are that have successful businesses. I love also talking to women with successful businesses that I always learn from those conversations. I go to trade shows a lot and learn in that space. And then I love listening. I love reading books, but I love a good murder mystery. So that's not in the health or in the self-help category. But I love listening to podcasts too. This podcast, I was thinking about this if you were going to ask me a question like this and how I'd answer. And um the podcast that came to my mind was actually Armchair Expert. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I'm not. Mm-mm.
It's Dax Shepard and Monica Padman, and they're two celebrities, and they talk to all sorts of different people, but they have a segment called Experts on Experts, where they bring on psychologists and people that are different, that are professionals in their different career fields or whatever. And I've learned so much from that, just with how to talk to people or relate to people, or like how do you best communicate with somebody? How do you figure out what they need and give that to them and that sort of thing. So I feel like that has been a really fun way, is just kind of like learning more about the human and how we like interact with one another and how we can continue to help one another. Like, and storytelling and that sort of thing has been really interesting to me lately.
Yeah, right. Story. So you yourself telling stories or listening to others tell stories?
I think a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. But yeah. So, what about you? What do
So,
you do?
well, I like, man, I'll tell you what, I like listening to books on Audible.
Oh
You know,
yeah. Yeah.
and I still like reading books. I mean, and gosh, I love reading business books. I mean, there's some books that have been foundational, like Stephen Covey's The Seven Habits of Highly
Yeah.
Successful People. I mean, that came out in the 80s, and
Yeah.
that's
It's
still kind of like so foundational in anybody's success. You have to start there with the foundation.
yeah.
But I love reading those books. And then there's what I was just sharing with someone the other day, a book. What happened to it? Oh, and oh yeah, this book here, Crucial Conversations.
Oh, I haven't
This
heard of
is
that one.
yeah, it came. I'm in part of a mastermind group, and somebody had mentioned this book, and so I'm like, oh, I've read that book. And then another lady in the group said, well, I'm friends with the author, and I'm like, what? You got to be
Oh my
kidding! Yeah, she
gosh.
said, oh yeah, well, I was. And this book is probably, I don't know when it was first published. It's got to be at least 8 or 10 years old. She said, yeah, I was given a first copy of the book to give critique it,
Oh
and
my
give.
gosh.
I'm like, I can't believe that. So
Man, I
anyway,
love a good small world moment.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I like to read books and I like to, listen to some podcasts, but and then
Yeah.
do some masterminds. That's that kind of thing. And of course, we're in the coaching business, so we're expecting clients to, read and learn. We say that the business can't grow beyond the business owner's ability to learn and grow, right? So as the
Yeah,
business owner learns and grows, so the business does. So
totally.
we expect our clients to be doing that, and we ourselves aspire to do that also. But you kind of have to have that in your blood. You know what I mean?
Totally.
You have to
Yeah,
be
for sure.
curious and interested,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
yeah, and seeking out the answers. So, but anyway, Megan, it was been fantastic having you on the show and learning about the cool little business you've got,
Yeah.
and to hear your passion about it.
Thank
It's a
you.
lot of fun.
Yeah, if there's any brands out there in Nashville that are looking for some help, I would love to meet you, you know?
Yeah. Do they have
Get to
trade
know.
shows? Do they have trade shows here in Nashville?
There
Around?
was one a couple of years ago, but there are some really cool, like great brands that are based here in Nashville that are in the natural and organic space. Walker Brothers Kombucha, if you've heard of them before, super, super awesome. They actually have hard kombucha and like regular kombucha that's sold in Whole Foods and stuff like that. And oh man, I'm blanking on the other one that I was just thinking of. Anyways, there's like a couple of other incredible brands that are located right here in Nashville. So it's fun to get to support those two and see them out in the stores and that sort of stuff. So
Yeah, awesome.
everybody buy local, you know?
Yeah, right. Buy local, and in Nashville, there's trade shows now a lot more frequently than there used to be.
Totally.
But anyway, I'm digressing here. It's been great having you on the show,
So good.
and like I said, to learn about your business and learn where you intend to take it, and to see your passion. It's infectious. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Greg. That's super nice. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
You too.